Hello, everyone, and we're continuing working all through this webinar. This webinar is on the topic how to manage a machine learning project. So we're going to be looking at the idea of whenever you have to work with a data science related machine learning project, how do we go about that? What are the best practices? And as an auditor or as a manager, what are the things one should take care of? And what are the things that one should keep a track of while working with any standard data science project? So that's what we'll be looking at. My name is Anshu Pandey, and I'm the instructor for this particular webinar. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and Wiley certified trainer. I work as a data scientist, and this webinar is brought to you by Solution Space. So in general, if we talk about machine learning is a set of algorithms from AI which can learn from data. There are three types of techniques under machine learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Supervised learning is a set of algorithms which can be used to predict future. And whenever we are very sure with the objective of the problem that you want to solve, the solution or the right algorithm we can get from supervised machine learning. Supervised machine learning algorithms always require labeled data set, right? So they need labeled data. And supervised machine learning algorithms learn from past data, and we deploy a trained model in production. So they don't learn in production. So supervised learning algorithms are very less expensive in production, you can say. Whereas unsupervised learning algorithms are used to identify hidden unknown patterns. It requires unlabeled data, so we don't need to have labels for unsupervised learning. And the unsupervised learning algorithms learn in almost near real time. Whereas we have third one, which is reinforcement learning algorithms, and these algorithms learn from feedback. So reinforcement learning algorithms form feedback-based learning. In case of reinforcement learning, the algorithms are very expensive when it comes to training the model. It takes a lot of time, and initially you cannot expect pretty good performance with them. Majority of uses of reinforcement learning is done in game development and also a few other segments of business. Under supervised learning, we have mainly two types of problem: regression and classification. Whenever you're trying to predict an attribute, if your target attribute is numeric, so that is regression problem. So in case your target attribute or your label is numeric, that's regression. And if your target is categorical, that's classification. Example of regression problem could be housing prices prediction or predicting stock prices. Example of classification could be customer churn prediction or classifying digits or classifying images, classifying articles. Under regression itself, we have another set of data which we call as sequential data. So whenever we work with sequential data, the set of techniques that we use differ compared to the standard techniques that we use for causal data. So for sequential data, we use different techniques. So you can say there could be one more category, but it is not different from regression or classification. Rather, it is a regression or classification model itself. It's just here we make sense of sequence, and we call them time series forecasting techniques. We use technique or algorithms like ARIMA or AR or MA model or exponential smoothing in this case. So problems of forecasting are solved using time series forecasting. So whenever it is about prediction, you work with regression or classification. But whenever it is about forecasting, we mostly work with time series, which could be weather forecasting, stock forecasting, demand forecasting, sales forecasting, like that. So in unsupervised learning, we have four types of problem: clustering, anomaly detection, dimension reduction, and recommendation system. Clustering is more of categorization of data into different buckets based on similarity in features. For example, on customer data, we can segment the customer data and create multiple clusters where customers having similar behavior fall under same cluster. Clustering could be applied to data science, to segmentation of customers, server logs, and stock data as well. Clustering could be used in image processing for color segmentation. Clustering could be used in tech NLP for text clustering, or you can say document segmentation. Anomaly detection is another type of unsupervised learning set of techniques where we try to detect a suspicious observation. Example could be credit card fraud detection. The third type of problem under unsupervised learning is dimensionality reduction. This is where we try to reduce the dimensionality of data from a larger dimension to a smaller dimension. Example could be reducing size of image without losing clarity from image. The fourth type of problem under unsupervised learning is recommendation systems. Here we try to build product recommendation systems or item recommendation system based on filtering techniques, which could be content-based filtering or collaborative filtering. Example of recommendation system could be Amazon product recommendation, or movie recommendation on Netflix, or video recommendation on YouTube. So this is more of landscape of machine learning, the set of techniques that we use and the category of algorithms that we have. According to the use case and demand, we may use many of these algorithms or techniques under same application. And maybe in a specific application, you need to use only one of them. In majority of the cases, whenever you want to predict future, you'll go back to supervised learning. And whenever it is about discovering unknown patterns, you'll go back to unsupervised learning. We also say that we perform predictive analytics using supervised, whereas prescriptive analytics using unsupervised. Let's go further and talk about the life cycle of a standard machine learning project. So this is a standard machine learning project pipeline, not the whole life cycle, but a project pipeline. So once I have data prepared, which is very clean and curated data, right? So this data is very clean and curated. Then I can easily split my data into two sets, which could be training set or test set. Training set of data which may contain X and Y, we can use it to train an algorithm. So what you do in machine learning is you pick one of the algorithm, you train that with your training data set. And then using test data, we evaluate the performance of model and check how good the model is. If it is not good, we go back and retrain again. This process keeps on happening. We call this process as optimization and tuning of an ML model. Once we are satisfied with the performance of model or the performance of algorithm, we outsource that or we export it and we call it as model. So you pick a data set, pick a machine learning algorithm, train that. The trained output object is called as model. So you can say before training, it's an algorithm, and after training, it's a model. Now this model can accept new data, right? So any new data from production, and for that, it can make prediction. If it is, let's say, face recognition, I may need data of maybe 500 faces and 500 labels, which I can split into train set and test set, train the model, and the trained model can accept data of new face and can predict the label on that face, right? Whose face is that? This is a standard pipeline of machine learning, which works whether you're talking about data science or natural language processing or computer vision. In any of these three cases, this pipeline works smooth, or you can say the same pipeline is used out if you are using a machine learning algorithm. Going further, if we specifically talk about the use of machine learning in data science, this is a standard life cycle of a data science project. Whenever I have to go through any data science project, the very first time that step that we'll do is we'll go ahead and do data exploration. This is where we try to understand data. We also do domain knowledge exploration and gather more and more relevant business relevant information. At this point, you don't look at the code or you don't start with the code mostly, but yep, what you do is you connect to people who work in business, try to gather as much as information as possible regarding the business case. And pick data sets from business, or if not available, prepare a data set. Capture data as much as possible from different segments of business. Even you may need to capture data from out of business as well. Once you have a fair understanding of domain and understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve, you can go to the second step. The second step in a data science project lifecycle is data cleaning, where we check for multiple things, which could be missing value, duplicate entries, unrealistic values, outliers, unwanted columns, and clean them up. Once we get clean data, the third step, which is the most important step, is feature engineering. Feature engineering involves two further steps: feature extraction and selection. Extraction means when you get data from business, it may not be in the right format where you can directly process it and use mathematics on it. For example, let's say if you talk about age of customers, no organization stores age of customers in their database because age of customers keep on changing every year. So any company will not or will never store age of the customers. Rather, they will store the same information in the form of date of birth, so that whenever we need age, we can actually capture date of birth, subtract that from current date, and get the current age of customer. So the idea is that the organization or the enterprise, the client, is going to store data in a very native, informative format on which you may not be directly be able to perform mathematics. You need to convert those information in that format of mathematical numbers where you can apply mathematics, which is called as feature extraction. Another is feature selection. Once we capture as many features as possible in the extraction process, selection process is where you use mathematical or statistical techniques and data visualization method to select best set of features. Once you have best set of features, we go to fourth step, which is pre-processing of data. Here we pre-process the data, and if needed, we perform steps like encoding, in which we may need to encode categorical attributes to numbers. Scaling of data, in which we may use standard scaler or normalization techniques to scale the data, and we split our data into train set and test set here. Next step is applying the machine learning algorithm. Here we pick one of the algorithm, which could be linear regression, logistic regression, decision tree, neural network, sorted machine, or random forest. We train that with our data. As a part of next step, we check the performance. If it is a regression model, we would check R-square score and adjust our R-square score. If it's classification model, we would check accuracy or recall or precision or F1 score. Once we're happy with the performance, we can directly jump from the 7th step. But if we're not happy, we go to 7th step. In this step, we try to do better feature engineering and change the model, tune hyperparameters of model to optimize or improve performance of a machine learning algorithm. At the end, once we are happy with the model performance, we export the model for production in the form of pickle file or H5 file. And at the end, we deploy it to production using REST interface. And then we have to write a framework via which we can monitor the performance of model in production. If needed, pull it back, retrain it with recent data, and redeploy it back. This is a 10-step standard life cycle for any data science project. So as a data scientist, I should follow up the standard life cycle for handling any standard project, which can help you out to complete the project with a proper structure. Let's go further and see now what are the methods that one should use for feature selection or feature engineering. But before that, we need to understand one of the idea of one of the machine learning algorithm, which is linear regression. So this is a more of generic pipeline for linear regression, let's say. So what we do is here we do data cleaning and feature engineering. In these two steps, we do data cleaning and feature engineering. So we feed label data which may contain X and Y to cleaning process and then to feature engineering process. Then these values are shared over y hat equals mx plus c, which could be your equation for straight line prediction in case of linear regression. It could be y hat equals m1x1 m2x2 plus c as well for two features. Then we feed this data to calculate cost function. So from here we get y hat, and from data set we have y. Using y and y hat, we calculate the error. Now in order to minimize this error, we use gradient descent algorithm. That's where we try to change the parameters, which is new value of m equal old value of m minus learning rate into del j by del m, and new value of c equals old value of c minus learning rate into del j by del c. The updated values of or new values of m and c, we feed it back to the equation. So our equation after first iteration will be, and you can say intelligent model to be able to make prediction. We keep on repeating this process until the change in cost function goes less than a threshold. When the change in cost function goes less than a threshold, we stop at that point. So this is an example of a standard life cycle of a linear regression use case. Now it's time to go ahead and look at what are the methods used for feature selection and how do you do that. So first, in the process of feature selection or feature engineering, one should perform exploratory data analytics. Exploratory data analytics is mostly done using data visualization techniques, and it helps a lot to have fair understanding of data. So before proceeding with the next step, one should do first exploratory data analytics. Under EDA, you may want to perform multiple levels of analytics, which could be univariate visualization of data. So you may want to look at summary of each field in the raw data set without looking at its inference with the label. Bivariate analysis, where we compare each field or each feature with the label. And multivariate, where we compare multiple fields or features with the label. Then you may also want to perform demonstrated reduction to be able to extract new information from the existing features. Also, you may want to try out clustering for observing the pattern in the data set and to be able to take better decisions by looking at the pattern present in the data. Once we're done with EDA, we can go ahead with multiple statistical and data visualization tools to perform feature selection. The standard best practices or techniques in feature selection are data visualization, which is where you use multiple visualization techniques to do feature selection. Correlation analysis, which is one of the very popular statistical method very widely used for feature selection. Variability analysis of an attribute. ANOVA, which stands for analysis of variance. One of the very popular and powerful technique under inferential testing, inferential statistics, and it's very widely used for comparing variance of two or more than two groups. Chi-square test, look at the distribution of groups among multiple other groups. So whenever you have to compare two categorical attributes, you would go for chi-square test. Well, performing cluster analysis, looking at mutual information, looking at feature importances after decision tree or random forest. Lasso for machine learning based feature selection. And then we have backward and forward chaining, which are also machine learning algorithm based selection of right features. Okay, so these are best practices and techniques which we use generally as part of feature selection. Let's go further and see in what situation which technique works well. So this table shows in what situation what technique should be used. So whenever you want to compare a categorical to continuous attribute, or you want to compare a continuous to categorical attribute, in that case, in graphs, you may want to use probability distribution of data, which is where dist plot is available under Seaborn. You may want to check swarm plot, box plot, or point plot as well. You may want to check ANOVA and mutual information as well. These are methods which can be used whenever you're dealing with categorical versus continuous. If you're dealing with continuous versus continuous, then you can use scatterplot, correlation analysis, ANOVA, and mutual information to look at importance of the feature. And if you're dealing with categorical versus categorical, in that case, we can compare a categorical with categorical attribute using chi-square test, bar plot, mutual information, and then count plot as well. So these are the popular techniques which can be used for feature selection and exploratory analytics. Going further, after feature selection, you may want to also do model selection. So you may have a question that, well, how do I pick the right algorithm for a specific use case? Well, the selection of algorithm depends on multiple factors. It also heavily depends on in what production environment your machine learning algorithm is going to survive. It depends on how much prediction speed you need. Let's say that you want to deploy a machine learning algorithm after training as a web application. So when you want to deploy it as a web application, you need very high prediction speed. When you want to deploy it as a mobile application, you need a very lightweight model. So the selection of model heavily depends also on production requirement and what is the volume and complexity of data that you have. So there are multiple criteria based on which you may want to do model selection. For example, if you look at these popular algorithms, which is like KNN, linear regression, logistic regression, Naive Bayes, decision tree, random forest, and neural network. As we can see that KNN can be used to solve both kind of problem, regression and classification both, whereas linear regression is only used for regression, whereas logistic is used for classification only. Naive Bayes is used for classification only, whereas decision tree, random forest, and neural network can be used for both. Then other factors we check, which could be like, is it the result of this model interpretable or not? Is it possible to explain the algorithm easily to the business team or not? What is the average prediction accuracy? So how much general accuracy should we expect from this particular algorithm? What is the training speed? Does the model training takes a lot of time? What is prediction speed? And then finally, the amount of hyperparameter tuning or parameter tuning needed. Other factors include, does the algorithm performs pretty well on small number of observations? Does it have a lot of irrelevant features as well? A lot of noise or noisy data? Can it learn the relationship between the features as well, which could be nonlinear relationship between the features? And does it gives you the probability of class in case of classification problem, right? And finally, is it linear or nonlinear? Do you need necessarily feature scaling or you don't need? So many of these are factors. Based on that, you may want to select whether the current algorithm is the right algorithm or not. There are multiple other cheat sheets as well. One of them could be this. So if I want to do, let's say, predict a numeric attribute, do I want to go for speed or I want to go for accuracy? If speed is my concern or priority, I would want to choose these two algorithms. If accuracy is my priority, I would want to choose these 3 or 4 algorithms. Similarly, if you're predicting category, if it is speed is our requirement, if it is to be explainable and very large volume of data, we'll go for explainable. If it is not explainable and having a large volume of data, we'll go for Naive Bayes, right? And if it is explainable, we'll go for, if we need explainable model, we'll go for decision tree or logistic regression. So like this, there are multiple cheat sheets which can help you out to have fair understanding of in what situation, which type of algorithm you may want to pick. So that was more about the machine learning technical life cycle. Let's go further and talk more about a standard machine learning project. Now, when you talk about a standard machine learning project, it is very different from a traditional software project. A traditional software project has a one phase only, which is development phase. And it's a set of rules that we have to follow, a standard structure we have to follow. And there's very less of research and engineering in the standard traditional software project. But a machine learning project involves multiple steps. For example, a machine learning project involves 2 important steps, which could be a research stage and a development stage. In research stage, data scientists and analysts work with the data set, prepare the data set with engineers, and develop a model which can be used to make prediction. In development stage, the trained machine learning model is then connected or integrated to a web or mobile application so that it can be deployed to production. In both the stages, the type of questions the team or the data science team or the software team will have would differ. In research stage, we have questions like what data is available, what kind of data can we use? Whatever data is available, is it more relevant to the problem we are trying to solve? We have questions like what machine learning algorithm should we try? Or maybe what metrics should we use to assess the performance of model? Is it possible to use transfer learning? Is it possible to do without hyperparameter tuning? Is it possible to implement a solution with OLS or with gradient descent approach? Or we should be able to implement a solution with 95% accuracy using decision tree. Or by hyperparameter tuning, we should be able to achieve 95% of recall. These are multiple assumption, questions, and queries that we have at research stage phase of the project. Whereas in development stage, you already done with research stage. So you have a good model in place which is ready to be deployed to production. So the kind of concerns and queries that arises in development stage are different. It could be, how do we implement this model on scale or method at scale? That means for large volume of customers. How do we pipe the data into model in a timely fashion? We should be able to retrain the model every 6 or 8 months. How do we collect, store, and transform data so that models can be retrained consistently? how we build A/B testing environment in order to test the future model iterations as well. So these are different considerations, or you can say questions, that rises in the development stage. So both are very different stage in a standard machine learning project, and this is what makes a standard machine learning project different compared to a traditional software project. Going further, let's now go ahead and see the next step that one should do as a manager. Well, as a manager, if I'm working with a data science project, I need to, at the end of project, I should always go ahead and check and verify the assumptions that we make in the beginning. We may have made assumptions related to the variables which are captured and the data which is captured. We may assume that this data is from X number of cities, from Y age group of people, and from Z economic group of people. Those assumptions we need to make sure, and when the model is deployed to production, we need to make sure that it targets those assumptions or those set of data points. Training set, validation test, and test set are representing reality. So it's an assumption that the data that you're capturing and you have split into train and test, it represents the real pattern present in the current market. So that's an assumption, and we need to make sure that we verify our assumption that is it our training test and validation data actually representing the overall variation in the customer mindset in the current market or not. It may happen that the current market might be very shallow and the data shows that it is very complex and strong. Then training, validation, and test set captured at the point in the in time remains valid, right? So these are different scenarios one should check, or you can say assumptions one should check. Other assumptions include transfer learning. If you're using transfer learning, so you're assuming that the pre-trained model that we're taking is a transferable model, and it is trained on a similar scenario on which our new project is to be developed. Or if we are using correlation analysis, so we have to make sure that the correlations analysis or the observations from correlation or any statistical method are validated from business point of view, right? So there may be a lot of scenarios or cases in which this may not work very well. For example, let's say divorce rate in Maine is highly correlated with per capita consumption of margarine, and this is not at all relevant. Divorce rate is not at all relevant to how much margarine is being consumed, right? So correlation always doesn't points to causation. That means it doesn't say that a particular feature is impacting that. It may be eventually there is a good mathematical correlation. So we need to always get correlations validated from business point of view. These are popular assumptions one should verify before going ahead with any data science project. Few more assumptions include that if there is a machine learning model which can be deployed to production after designing the model, it should be deployed in the same timeline or in the same environment in which the particular data was captured. And a machine learning project compared to a standard software project takes a little bit higher time. So the time constraint should be relaxed in a machine learning project. And we need to make sure that the features do not change over a period of time. If there's a data drift occurring up, for example, the data or behavior of consumers is changing up, you developed a machine learning solution from telecom customer data, and telecom customer data keeps on changing over a period of time. So if there's a drift in data, that means if there's a change in data, the model drift should happen. I mean, model should be relatively retrained on the recent data, and it should be revalidated as well. So we need to verify assumption that the time period taken or considered for retraining of model is correct, or it is not based on any uncalculated attribute or uncalculated scenario. Then one of the other assumption is the operational ownership. That means the total cost of development, TCO, total cost of ownership, should be lower than the loss that the model is solving or the problem the model is solving, right? So the loss which was causing because of the problem is being solved by machine learning solution. The cost may include the cost of hiring machine learning engineers, labeling data, researching errors, maintenance of the model, identifying the model drift when it occurs, retraining into production. So this total cost of ownership should be lower than the loss that the client was making because of the problem which is currently solved by the ML application. These are very important diligence scenarios, or you can say assumptions that one should verify before starting with a standard machine learning project. Going further, talking about the best practices one should take care of. Before that, one of the other things that one should take care of is the data quality. The overall performance of machine learning model heavily depends on the quality of data which is being used to train it. When the data is captured from the industry or the organization, there is a huge amount of pre-processing that occurs based on the type of problem, and one should verify that the quality and the information captured or contained by the data is not lost or is not manipulated while doing pre-processing of the model. So one should do the documentation of data catalog and the pipeline in the complete auditing process, in what format the data is changing from one step to another. Let's talk about now some of the best practices we should take in machine learning. So this is an example of a sample data catalog. So if I'm handling with a machine learning data, I should create a catalog that, well, at step one, we started with a data source, which is data lake. We took a clickstream data, which is like the data from consumer behavior on the website, which was on this particular duration. The quantity of data is this, and comment on the data. And then what are the other set of data we took? So we took data lake and order history, which is 55,000 orders, and what format are changed or what pre-processing is done, that should be commented. This is more of a data auditing catalog. So one should prepare a complete data auditing catalog while handling or managing a standard machine learning project. This helps at the end in doing auditing of how the data change was done, and if in any step there is a possibility of information lost or manipulated in the data, that could be captured, which is very important part on the testing perspective and on the business trust perspective, and as well with the prospect of the real outcome to the business from the machine learning solution. It may happen that while handling data for machine learning project, you may remove outliers and you may prepare a very clean data. And on very clean data, if you train a machine learning algorithm and you check the performance on test data, you may get overwhelmed by a great performance. But this great performance is achieved on very neat and clean curated data set. In real production, the data may not be this much neat and clean, and outlier may not be cleaned out there. So one should take care of that. Whatever set of pre-processing is done, it is not creating unnecessary overwhelming result. It should actually represent the reality as per the business scenario or business production environment. So that's more about the data quality assessment and data quality catalog. So now it's time to move further and look at the idea of the standard best practices one should follow when it comes to managing a machine learning project. So we have here pointed out, or you can say categorized, the best practices in 4 groups. The first, staffing the project appropriately. Second is assessing the economic value of the project. Third, using right scorecards as a part of risk management technique with machine learning project. And then using incremental investment approach towards a machine learning project. Let's understand them one by one with an example. First is staffing a machine learning project. Well, a machine learning project are generally staffed by the definition, which is like machine learning. So in many organizations, you might see that they staff it with machine learning experts, but machine learning experts are not sufficient for handling the whole project. A machine learning project requires people with different skill sets. For example, you need data scientists who have very good background in the applied mathematics, statistical analysis, and machine learning algorithms. You need data engineers who have very good background in handling big data tools, data warehouses, databases, connecting multiple databases, preparing a data set, and performing engineering on data to convert multiple columns, merge features, extract information from features, and handling data-related technology, which could be Kafka, Flume, or Apache Spark, anything like that. So a good team in the research stage should consist of data scientists and data engineers. This is in the research stage. Well, when you go further to the other stage, you also need other set of teams, which may include software engineers as well. You also need a steering committee. A steering committee should be consisting of business stakeholders, managers, decision makers, so that they can validate the direction of a machine learning project or a data science project. And they can also take decision to cancel the project if the economic value of the project is no longer supporting the right business intention or business objective. Another set of stakeholders that you need in a machine learning project is subject matter experts. That means those people who actually deal with those business. Let's say if I'm dealing with a loan prediction business or use case in banking, I need to also take care, or I need to also connect to people who actually deal with real loans, and they handle NPAs, and they handle bad loans on their own. In a number of scenarios, statistical methods or statistical approach outcomes needs to be get validated from business point of view from those experts who actually deal with the relevant business case. So SMEs are also one of the important stakeholders of any standard machine learning project. And then data scientists who do end-to-end architecting and end-to-end analysis and development of machine learning models. At the end, you need data application development engineers and infrastructure engineers to be able to deploy a machine learning model in production. This was about staffing the project. If a project has lack of any of these skill sets, that leads to a higher timeline and a higher cost, at the same time less effectiveness of the project. Next step is assessing economic value associated with a machine learning project. A machine learning project is always developed to solve a business problem. So at the time, it should be considered that the cost of development of project should not go higher than the losses that we are reducing by creating this project. So how the project is impacting the business, and how during the development it is impacting the business, and what is the economic value associated with that, that has to be assessed out, which can be assessed in multiple ways. It can be assessed by calculating TCO, total cost of ownership of project, and then auditing of up to what extent the problem is solved. For example, let's say if a company telecom client loses around $5 billion, let's say $5 million because of customer churn in a year. Now, it may not be necessary that a machine learning solution will save the whole $5 million that they lose in the whole year. It may solve the problem up to some extent. Now, up to that extent, up to what extent it's going to be solved, there has to be an economic value calculation about what benefit this ML project is going to generate. And that economic value of the project needs to be compared with total cost of ownership. That economic value can be calculated with multiple approach, which could be, let's say, in one way, we can look at the confusion matrix for a classification problem: true negatives, false positives, false negatives, and true positives. We can say that whenever there is a true negative, there is a zero cost. Whenever there is a true positive, there is a profit of 1,000. Whenever there is a false negative, there is a loss of 1,000. But whenever there is a false positive, there is a loss of 11,000. This can help to multiply this with the count of predictions and calculate the total profit and losses, and that would end up calculating the total benefit generated by the model. This auditing process helps to calculate the economic value which the machine learning project will generate. And based on the economic value, it can be calculated, or it can be decided whether the project direction is correct or it is incorrect. This is one of the very important step to be considered while managing a standard machine learning project. The next step is using scorecards for risk management. Risk management is very important segment of any standard software project, and so it also applies on machine learning project as well. Compared to standard traditional software projects, scorecards differ when it comes to machine learning project. There are a variety of scorecards that you may want to create or build or manage while handling a machine learning project as a manager, which may include project context scorecard, which can include the compliance diligence or compliance check of the project. So is it the current machine learning project following the ethics? That means, let's say if I'm doing object detection, so is it weapons targeting system are being considered or not? Is it AI imitating humans, or is it any creating disrespect or something? So do we have any issue? Yes, or we don't have any issue? No. What is the status? Is it red or green? Similarly, is it that model making consequential decisions, step-by-step decisions, which is changing the decision of the model over a period of time? The privacy is taken care or not? What is the fairness or bias of the model? Risk of bad press if the model doesn't work very well. How much is risk associated with bad press, which will uh, defame the image of the you can say company or the brand? Do we have need of transparency and auditability of this model? What is possibility of success of this ML application? And how much is the closed world development, like testing versus open world development? That means how much we can do inside and how much we have to do outside. How much will we need to wait for making this model generate revenue? And what is the impact of this ML model on the whole inference? So this is one of the project context scorecard which needs to be created. Similar to this, it could be a financial scorecard, which may be the financial model built. That means what was the cost of building the model, and what is the anticipated ROI, potential upside return that we get. Increase, for example, do we have increased customer retention of 5% or decreased cost per transaction of 5%? What is the scenario that we are getting out of this model? What is the potential downside risk? The worst case downside, liability associated, the cost of building the model, the timeline, and with a team of set of people, right? So you have a team of 2 engineers and the timeline is 6 months. So what is the cost of building, cost of maintenance, and quality of model, prediction versus expectation, amount of uncertainty in model prediction. So we calculate all of this as a part of auditing a machine learning application. Then comes up the data quality scorecard, where we look at the input data precision, the data accuracy, the volume of data which is captured, and for what duration it is captured, the sources of data, and pre-processing. Is it a right approach or is it a wrong approach? Whether the pre-processing is making is biased or not. You need to also look at the production versus data pipeline, how clumsy, how slow, or how computationally expensive the pipeline is, how frequently you will need to make prediction in the production environment. Does the data changes over time, and will the change in data, the data drift, will also require pre-processing or not? How much of volume of data needs to be pre-processed over a period of time, which also incur cost and the quality of data it will impact. That is about using different set of scorecards. Another scorecard could be combination of all of these, which could manage timeline, economic value, statistical analysis, research and development as well. And finally, we should check the collection of all scorecards, which could be project context, financial, project process, and data quality assessment. The next best practice, or the 4th step, is using incremental investment approach. That means a machine learning model or a project needs to have regular reviews from the steering committee or the management, and needs to check the current asset. That means the current assessment. That means how much progress has been done. What is the current status? What are the challenges, and how soon can we mitigate them? Let's say in the first phase or first sprint of project, these analysis and scorecard analysis could be done if needed. That means if model is going more complex and if it is going out of the budget and expected return that it is going to generate, we should stop at this point. That means the time, labor, money, and amount of data which to be invested should not be blindly invested in the whole project. It should be reviewed in every step within the project, and then based on it, decision has to be taken for the next step to be done or not. The step should also be audited very well so that it can provide good recommendations for future projects to decide proper timelines and proper budget and estimation of cost. That was all about the set of best practices for a standard machine learning project. This is where we have seen the idea of how do we manage a standard machine learning project. Now we will go ahead and see a next step is how to build a standard AI team. How do we work with an AI team and how to start building an AI team from scratch. There are a couple of suggestions in terms of tools, methods, approach, and techniques, and do's and don'ts. Let's see them out. If I have to build an AI team, I may need to provide my existing business team different levels of training and improve their skill set on different scenarios. For example, the executives, the decision makers, and the top-notch leaders needs to be trained on understanding what AI can do. They are the one who decide whether the AI project they want to implement or not. So they need to have fair understanding of what AI can do and cannot do. They need to have fair understanding of what strategy to be chosen for the AI project, and they should be able to decide the right resource allocation over period of time in the AI project. So the set of training they may need or learning they may need would differ a lot from what an AI engineer or data scientist would need. Second is the leaders of divisions of project, which could be business managers or project managers, needs to be trained with deciding the right project direction, how to allocate resources, how to monitor progress, how to do auditing and direction of project. And then we have low-level teams, which is the engineers or data scientists work. They need to have technical skill set and capability and how to gather data, how to do data engineering, and develop data science project. So if I have to build an AI team, I need to improve the skill set of all the stakeholders with different set of trainings and skill improvement programs. These trainings could be given in multiple modes. It could be online training, it could be in-house training and seminar, it could be also self-learning from books as well. Who do you want to include in a standard AI team? A standard AI team would comprise of software engineers who can do execution of tasks, develop applications, machine learning engineers who can design machine learning algorithms and program them, machine learning researcher who can develop tailored custom algorithm for a specific problem, applied machine learning scientist who could develop solutions and use machine learning algorithms to develop industry-grade applications, data engineers who could capture data from multiple data sources, combine them, develop big data infrastructure solution, and manage the infrastructure as well. Product manager who can identify the right products, identify the technical feasibility, business feasibility, and timeline estimation, and can also architect the end-to-end project as well. Data scientists who do end-to-end monitoring and development of real project, working with data, analyzing data, performing engineering to developing ML solutions. These are popular roles in an AI team. The technical tools available today, thanks to open source world, there is huge amount of community support available in the AI and data science domain. And the set of tools available are very powerful to develop standard AI solutions, which could be TensorFlow from Google, PyTorch supported by Facebook, Keras built on the top of TensorFlow, Scikit-learn, MXNet, CNTK, Kefi, Paddle, R, and Veka are very popular tools which are very widely used for developing data science solutions. So an AI team should be skilled with many of these tools and techniques. The technical resources would include research publications. Archive is a very good platform for reading research papers and having understanding of recent development in data science and machine learning. Whereas GitHub can help someone to have fair understanding of code base and getting code examples for implementation of standard machine learning algorithms and applications. In terms of infrastructure support, an AI team may want to use CPU or versus GPU infrastructure. For training computer vision related applications, one may need GPU oriented infrastructure, but for data science and NLP application, one may not necessarily need that. Cloud also is a scenario which could be considered for handling, for using cloud services could also be considered for as a solution to infrastructure requirement for standard machine learning projects. Last thing that we're going to see is the idea of pitfalls one should avoid in the AI journey, which includes one should not expect AI to solve everything. So AI is not solution to every problem. One should be very realistic about what AI can or cannot do, and also identify the right limitations of technology and data and engineering resources. One should not hire just 2 to 3 ML engineers and count solely on them about development or completion of a standard machine learning project. One should pair the talents from business and data science and data engineering teams to develop a cross-functional team to create a valuable project and complete the project in the given timeline, estimated timeline. Other do's and don'ts include: do not expect AI project to work fine for the very first time. In a majority of scenarios, AI project takes a lot of time and multiple attempts to complete. So development of a standard AI project is an iterative process with multiple attempts needed to succeed. One should not expect the traditional planning process to work and to help in succeeding with a machine learning project. Machine learning projects and AI projects do have different challenges. The set of KPIs to be mapped, estimations of time and budget and milestones differ compared to traditional software project. An organization should not expect that you need a superstar AI engineer to be able to develop anything and to start with a project. Even a mid-level AI engineers and machine learning expert can also help to accomplish the initial goals and get started with the standard AI journey. These are some of the pitfalls one should do or don't when it comes to managing an AI project and working with standard AI, working with an AI team. So that was the whole idea of this particular webinar. So this gives us fair understanding of how to manage machine learning project and how we work with an AI team and how to build a standard AI team from scratch. Now we are open to questions. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat box.